The Buffalo Bills fully unleashed Josh Allen against Tampa Bay, and if they want to reach their potential this year, they're going to have to do that every week moving forward. Locked On Bills starts now.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Locked On Bills is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Well, folks, welcome in. I've taken the time to study the ALL-22 coaches film from the Bills' 44-32 win over the Buccaneers. And I'm sharing with you my top takeaways from that study. We'll do studs and duds. We'll do snap counts. We'll talk defense. But I want to start with the offense and, of course, Josh Allen and this passing game that really opened up against the Buccaneers. Josh Allen, 3 passing touchdowns, over 300 passing yards, and it certainly looked a lot different than this year's Bills offense and in some ways last year's offense. It looked a lot like the Bills passing offenses in the 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 versions. And so let's talk about it. I think the way to kind of just put it out there is they opened things up. And it was not always clean, but Josh Allen made things happen. There was some chaotic moments for sure, whether that was pocket management, some missed throws. You know, it wasn't clean all the time, but it was very productive. And some things that I thought were critical to the success of this passing offense is first and foremost, first down play action. The Bills were like the most run aggressive team on first down. And so they countered, right? They countered on that this week, and they became very play action aggressive on first down. Josh Allen on first down play action, 5 of 7 for 101 yards and a touchdown. It was very necessary. It was a good tendency breaker against a good Bucs defense where you're missing a lot of the elements of your offense. No Kincaid. Shakir's a non-factor. For whatever you think of Keon Coleman, he's the receiver that plays the most, and he didn't play in this game. You weren't able to really lean on your rushing offense. And so it was a good time for a tendency breaker. And the play action rate in this game was phenomenal. 30% play action in this game. And that's the magic number that I'm always looking for. 30% play action rate. Josh Allen overall on play action in this game goes 6 of 9 for 129 yards and a touchdown. And we talked about this. The Bucs were not a good play action defense. The Bills challenged them appropriately. The other thing that kind of came together for the Bills in this game was handling the blitz. Early on, had a couple of issues, but they settled in very, very nicely. And Tampa blitzed. They blitzed 61% of Josh Allen's dropbacks. And on those blitzes, Josh Allen went 12 of 18 for 202 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw both of his interceptions against blitzes. Now let's talk about those 2 interceptions real quick. The first one, I think the protection scheme is off here. Maybe the back was supposed to stay in. Maybe it slid the wrong way. Maybe Edwards should have fanned out. I think there's some questions. I don't know the answer, but the protection was off. That's one thing I can tell you. The protection was off, and I don't feel super comfortable pointing the finger exactly at the thing that was wrong. I can just tell you it was off. And it's unfortunate because Josh Palmer ran a heck of a route. Slant, got wide open, but Josh didn't have the time for it to clear and him to get the ball out. And so you wind up having a free runner, and then it's an ill-advised flick of the ball, and it's an interception. Tampa gets the ball at the 7-yard line. The other interception I'm way more disappointed in. He was locked in on on the route to Dawson Knox. They ran mesh underneath with a sit route over top of it. They love those layered mesh concepts, and Josh was just predetermined that that's where he was going to throw the football, which was silly because they gave a presentation of one high middle of the field close coverage, and that's literally where you can't go with the ball. You just can't throw it there. Quarterback 101, one high middle of the field close coverage, throw the ball outside. Josh Allen never thought about it. And if he did, boy, he might have had a touchdown pass to Ty Johnson, who was wide open on the swing route. So I thought that was just a bad job of reading the defense, predetermining your read, staying with it, not allowing the defense to get your eyes in the right spots, and you threw a bad interception. All right, but we'll move on from that. I mean, there's a couple of bad plays. I mean, the guy threw for 300 and something yards, 357 total yards, 6 touchdowns. More good than bad happened, but I do like to kind of share what I saw on interceptions. I thought the Bills passing offense did a very good job of working all levels of the field. There are times when you watch the Bills passing offense and it feels like they're playing football in a very small box, and it's hard to function like that, right? There's no spacing. Well, in this game, they were deliberate about attacking all levels of the field. 13% of throws went deep, which means 20 yards or more from the line of scrimmage. You had 30% went intermediate, which is 10 to 19 yards. You had 47% go short, which is 0 to 9 yards. And you had 10% go behind the line of scrimmage. I thought it was a very good job of stressing every level of the defense. And you had some level of success throwing to all levels. And that's really important. I thought the spacing of this particular offense against Tampa was where it needed to be, and it didn't feel as congested as it typically does. And I think the deliberate intent to work the ball down the field a little bit to dial up some shots, I thought that mattered a ton. I thought Tyrell Shavers was really good in this game. His vertical route running, it was very similar to the stuff that we talked about during preseason, where you're like, yeah, there's some really interesting stuff here with how he gets vertical. And I'm not even talking about the touchdown catch. That was just a scramble drill more than anything. There were other examples of him, running deep routes, showing good route running, timing that I really appreciated, and very much prefer him to Keon Coleman in that role. I thought Josh Palmer was awesome in this game. Obviously, he only had a couple of catches. One was a huge over the middle catch on a third down where Josh trusted it and fit it in there. But I think it's only a matter of time. You just watch Josh Palmer run routes, and he's really, really good. And he's very good at separating. And I think if they can get some consistent practice time together in the role that they want Palmer to fill, I think there's going to be some production that's definitely going to be coming there. I thought Gabe Davis was absolutely stabilizing for Josh Allen. Had 3 catches in the game, 40 yards. His feel for space is really good, and his ability to win leverage battles is really good. I know he's not going to run away from people. He's not going to pick up chunks after the catch. He's got his limitations. But there's a different conversation to have about Gabe Davis as a piece of this offense that can do those things and help, compared to, okay, we're going to pay him to be the number 2 receiver. So you understand how that conversation's different, and therefore my tone towards Gabe Davis is different. If you just ask him to do the things that he does well, he can help you. If you ask him to be a do-everything number 2, well, I think you got problems. And then Curtis Samuel, what do you have? 1 catch in this game, but if there's anything to be taken away from watching Curtis Samuel in this game, is that dude was asked to run so many for love of the game routes. No chance you're getting the ball. He ran all the clear outs, lifting coverage and creating stuff for other players. And you saw that really kind of pick up against Kansas City. And then you saw it against Tampa, where, the guy is literally, no, you're not getting the ball, dude, but we need you to run this route like you are and lift some coverage. And I thought he was really important for this spacing that was much better against Tampa Bay. Of course, running backs in the passing game was a big part. 5 catches, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns for Ty Johnson and James Cook. I will say that 4 of those 5 throws were schemed, to which I say good. Whatever it takes to make it happen, go with that, because I don't think in the normal progression style passing, Josh Allen's going to have the eyes, if you will, for the running backs out of the backfield. So scheme it up, make it happen, and you had huge plays. 5 for 127. It's huge. 2 touchdowns. Huge. It's a big part of, I think, when the Bills' offense is at its best, the running backs are involved in the passing game. Then I think from a protection standpoint, I thought it really settled in. They got a few times early on where, they were able to scheme up a free runner at Josh. But then it stabilized. I thought the Bills did a good job of using running backs and tight ends in their blocking surface. The Bills have, under Joe Brady, been reluctant to have more than a 5-man blocking surface in pass pro. Well, there were some times in this game where they kept in Dawson Knox, they kept in Ty Johnson, and got the protection that they needed to get a throw off down the field. The results were a lot better when they started to do that. I thought overall one-on-one matchups for the offensive line versus the Bucs defensive line was very good for Buffalo. I didn't see any clean losses. It was more scheme stuff to me than anything, but it stabilized very, very much. But bottom line here is definitely a more wide open passing offense. They leaned into what makes Josh Allen special, which is his playmaking skills, the physical skill set that he has to challenge everywhere on the football field. It stabilized and got cleaner as the game moved along. And, look, I just feel like more times than not, this style offensively is probably necessary for this version of the Buffalo Bills to maximize its potential. The Bills have some real challenges right now with their defensive front, defending the run, and even pass rush. We're going to talk about that later. There's been a drastic decline in the pass rush. How are you going to overcome it? You're going to have to score. You're going to have to score. And it's late in the season. It's the middle of November. Thanksgiving's coming. You got to go, right? You got to go now. And how do you optimize this football team to go on a run this year? And I think it's going to be a lot more of this to overcome some of the challenges that the Bills have with their defensive line. Again, we'll talk about that here a little bit later, but coming up next, we will specifically get into the rushing offense, kind of what didn't work there, and then why did it come together, and of course, the offensive snap counts before dialing in on the defense. So, folks, be sure to stick with me. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It just keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. So check it out right now. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, let's talk about this Bills rushing offense. Not a very productive day for the Bills running the football. You did see some interesting things happen. I thought early on, the Bills ran into some heavy boxes. They really did. They didn't have numbers in the math game. They'd have 5 to block 6, or they've had 4 to block 5. And, well, that's going to be tough to be successful when the math is not on your side. And so they did that thing where they kind of ran the ball into a brick wall and didn't have much success. I think that combined with too many horizontal runs and too many gap runs where they wanted to, kind of challenge the perimeter a little bit. And the reality is Tampa's just got some bigger players on the edge that it's going to be tough to consistently win there. But, when you're trying to run gap runs and rely on displacement, that's what they have. They have big bodies up front. Vita Vea and Elijah Simmons and Logan Hall and these players, right? Anthony Nelson, they got bigger dudes. And so, trying to run right at him, Servassier Dennis is a good downhill player. I thought they had the right idea, which was corrected in the second half where they got into some of their inside zone runs. And I really feel like that last touchdown drive that the Bills had to go up 2 scores, that's where you saw them really have the right ideas running the football. I thought it was James Cook's best series He had a big catch on that series, but also some really nice inside zone runs that were more favorable for the Bills blocking and the talent they have up front against what Tampa has. And what that enabled, why that was better, is because you put James Cook in a position where he makes the blocks right versus, hey, we're just going to rely on bodies to be moved out of the way. And so you build in those angles, take advantage of them, and you trust the running back with arguably the best vision in the league to go make blocks right. And that's what happened later in the game. But also not running into heavy boxes as much was a pretty big deal. You kind of softened them up, right? You started to challenge them down the field. You started to get the quarterback run game going a little bit. And you saw the rushing offense pick up later in the game when you needed it most. But I think that can be a consequence in a good way of, hey, you kind of play this more wide open style of football. It's going to make running the ball a little bit easier. And so I think they have to lean into it. And again, the quarterback design runs were noticeable, right? We haven't seen much of that, but it goes back to this idea that the Bills have really unleashed Josh Allen. They did in this game. I don't know what the rest of the season looks like, but I understand that there's a calculated approach that the Bills need to have to these seasons with Josh Allen and the type of quarterback he is and the style of play that he has, right? I don't think Josh Allen can play like that for a 20-game season, right? I mean, you're talking about 20 games, 17 in the regular season, and then your playoff run. I don't think that's sustainable. And I think we understand that. I think the Bills understand that. And so when it's time to mash the gas pedal, it's time to mash the gas pedal. It feels like we're there. But, this team is lacking at receiver. This team does have a lot of problems with their run defense. Their pass rush is rapidly declining. How are you going to get it done? It's probably this. And so I don't know that every week you need this, but I think more times than not moving forward, if the Bills are going to do what we want them to do, it's going to require this type of style. It's not going to be 357 yards and 6 touchdowns every week. That's just never going to happen. But the ingredients that makes that possible, I think you're probably going to need it a little bit more than you probably want to down the stretch. Offensive snap counts. The Bills played 56 snaps of offense. Josh Allen, all 56 snaps. At running back, James Cook, 47. And also, I made sure to make a point of this with James Cook when watching the film this week. There's some thoughts out there that, there's a tell that before every carry, James Cook hits the smelling salt. So it's a tell that, he's going to get the ball. Folks, he hits the smelling salts before every play. He does not discriminate against whether he's getting the ball or not. My guy hits the smelling salts on every play. There is no tell. So I made sure to pay attention to that. Ty Johnson, 18 snaps. What a game he had. Catching the ball, had a carry for 9 yards that set up a touchdown. And, he was very, very good in pass pro when the Bills asked him to do that. So really, really strong contributions from Ty Johnson. Ray Davis, only 1 snap, but the kick return stuff was awesome. The Bills had some really good schemes dialed up with their kick return game. I showed a lot of it on the ALL-22 review clips that I sent to the Substack and the Subtext community. So if you'd like to see that, go to thejoemarino.com and check out either the Substack or the Subtext. You get tons of extra content. Plus, you get my ALL-22 film breakdown. And I showed a couple of those kick returns, and they were good kick returns by the returners, but I thought the blocking schemes are really creative to kind of spring them, and some really good work there from Chris Tabor. So Ray Davis, only 1 snap of offense, but, obviously a big return impact. Reggie Gilliam, 12 snaps. At tight end, Dawson Knox, 43 of 56 snaps. Jackson Hawes, 19. Kaleki Letu off the practice squad, 6 snaps. And Alec Anderson, 1. Then at receiver, Khalil Shakir and Tyrell Shavers both played 30 out of 56 snaps. Josh Palmer, 28. Curtis Samuel, 28. Gabe Davis, 23. I saw Davis, and I'm like, who is this? Gabe Davis, 23 snaps. And McCole Hardman, 4. Let me comment real quick on that punt return. Boy, that was so disappointing for McCole Hardman to fumble that ball. He caught the ball and then advanced it. And I take great exception with his entire process on that play. The Bills were in punt safe. It was a 4th and 1, and it was the regular defense, right? I mean, it's Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa and Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano and Christian Benford and Trey White are your jammers on the outside. There was no intent to return the ball. There was no intent whatsoever. None. You were in punt safe. There wasn't a single Bills player on the field that was worried about blocking anybody. And McCole Hardman said, you know what? I'm going to make a play. I'm going to do it. And you know what he did? He freaking fumbled. He caught the ball. He tried to advance a punt that there was no blocking for. You got to call a fair catch, dude. Call a fair catch. Don't even field the ball. You can't do that. That was a selfish choice that he made. And I'm sure as a competitor, you get on a team, you get on the roster, you had a big, whatever that big kick return was earlier, you're like, all right, let's go. Let me prove it. Nah, dude, just do the smart right thing. That was a goofy choice. Nobody was blocking for him because it was punt safe. It's an awful choice. Then all offensive linemen, all 56 all starters played the 56 snaps. I thought Spencer Brown was, in particular, awesome in this game. Handled his one-on-ones against Yaya Diaby. It felt like every good run play that the Bills had was behind Spencer Brown, getting into space. He was phenomenal in this football game. All right, coming up next, we'll talk defense and get a lot into the individual players on that side of the football. I thought there were some interesting elements, and we got to talk about the declining pass rush as well. So, folks, be sure to stick with me.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, welcome back, folks. Let's talk about this defense. Pass defense, I thought there's a good story to tell. I thought the Bills' coverage was really strong in this game, really sticky at times with how they covered. And I thought you saw some differences in some of their coverage structures, a lot more cover one, a lot less cover two. So they had a lot of one high, middle of the field closed, man coverage underneath it. They typically don't nearly as much. I think it was like a 15% spike in that coverage concept. And I thought they did a good job. I thought the coverage was a lot better than the pass rush in this game. And I want to get into kind of my concerns about the state of this pass rush, where 2 weeks in a row, it just hasn't been effective. They only pressured Baker on 20% of his dropbacks. And so the last 2 weeks, so you had Tua and Baker Mayfield, and they combined to drop back 58 times, and the Bills only got 13 pressures on those 58 dropbacks. And they got one sack, and it was basically a coverage sack. You saw it, the Daquan Jones play at the end there. That's it over the last two games. They have a pass rush or a pressure rate over expectation of minus 5.35%. That's 24th in the NFL. That's coming off of the Chiefs game where, thought it was one of the best pass rushing efforts I've seen out of the Bills. Ultimately, you have Joey Bosa with one hand. And you don't have Michael Hoyt and you don't have Ed Oliver. You're playing a bunch of really young defensive tackles that aren't very repped. And it's tough. It's tough right now for them to get pressure. I'm concerned about it I think they're going to have to get creative on how they're going to be able to win these one-on-one battles and deliver the type of pass rush impact necessary to win late in the season, right? Had a big drop off the last couple weeks. So let's hope that changes. But the fact that you don't have Oliver Hoyt and Joey Bosa playing on one hand, I don't know. I don't like how that projects moving forward. The Bills did not blitz in this game nearly as much as I thought they would or should. They blitzed their normal amount, which is right at about 23%. So that was 8 of Baker Mayfield's dropbacks. And on those 8 dropbacks, Baker went 2 for 5 with a pick, and then had a couple of scrambles. Thought they had a missed opportunity there. We talked about it on the last show before the Bucs game, that Baker was 30th in EPA per dropback when blitzed. And the Bills were very successful when they blitzed him. So I thought they might dial that up a little bit more, but they're going to have to win with some scheme elements with their rush moving forward. And I think they have something with this Dorian Williams role. And boy, I thought Dorian was phenomenal in this game, whether it was defending the run, whether it was special teams, making some huge blocks in those kick returns, but also the third down role, long and late downs, where they use him as a rusher and a mirror player. So sometimes he will rush, and when he's rushing, a lot of times he's just trying to free up somebody else, setting picks. He set some great picks, got Joey Bosa free on one, got AJ Epinesa free on one. But also, he's very athletic, and so, he's a physical, athletic player, and there's car crashes going on all over the place. He's out there just smashing into dudes, and he's really athletic, and he's able to kind of affect the quarterback as well. But then he also will drop off. He'll be this mirror player and give everyone freedom to rush and play over top and really keep that quarterback in the pocket. So it's a nice little role that they have. I wish it was him and Michael Hoyt. I think that'd be super dangerous. Javon Solomon's now the Michael Hoyt player, and I think it was a little better this week. He definitely attacks with a lot of urgency. He's just not super long. He's not super explosive. You're like, what's your superpower? He doesn't really have one, right? Tries hard. I'll give him that. I'm hoping that he can develop very quickly into that role, combined with Dorian Williams. Younger players like a TJ Sanders or a Deion Walker can elevate their performance as they get more experience. Epinesa was kind of rough in his first game back. Hopefully that normalizes. Hopefully Bosa's hand can get figured out, because he's not the same right now playing on one hand, obviously. All right, let's talk rushing defense. I'll be honest with you on this. I came away with a takeaway that I wasn't expecting. I thought I was going to watch this film and be like, oh my goodness, the Bills defensive linemen, specifically the defensive tackles, are getting blown off the ball. They really didn't. They really didn't. I thought they were pretty firm. I thought collectively the Bills front defensive line was pretty firm with defending their gaps. Where I think the Bills lost against the run was they got out-gapped. And so you have a situation, and this is kind of back-to-back games, going back to Miami, where the teams are using motion to influence the second level to get them maybe bumping over a gap or kind of leaning towards something, and then they run back across the grain. And sometimes there's pullers. They must have pulled Tristan Wirfs on a high percentage of their run plays. They pull their center a little bit there too, Graham Barton. And so you're having this motion that's influencing things, and now you got pullers, and so you have additional gaps going the other way. It caused some problems for the Bills. It wasn't necessarily guys are getting blown off the ball. I thought that was going to be the case. It really wasn't. I thought they got out-gapped more than anything. So I think they're going to have to look at scheme and how they're going to deal with motion and how they're going to read stuff like through the guards. And, they're reading through the guards, but then the tackles pull and they're going the opposite ways. And so they just kind of got twisted up. It was a lot less of, hey, they got beat up. Last week against Miami, they got beat up. They didn't get beat up this week. They just got out-gapped. I think this is a number that tells a story. Tampa Bay in this game averaged 1.54 yards after contact per attempt. It's not like they were just grinding out tough yards. They had gaps that the Bills couldn't account for and were able to get free access runs, clear air runs, if you will. Not that that's okay. I'm not saying that's okay. It's a problem. But I'll take that over getting beat up, right? I don't think they got beat up. All right, let's talk defensive snap counts. The Bills played 71 snaps of defense. Joey Bosa will do defensive end first. Joey Bosa, 44 snaps. He's playing on one hand. Greg Rousseau, 42 snaps. He had some really impressive pass rush reps against Tristan Wirfs. I didn't expect him to be able to compromise Tristan with speed to power, but he did on a handful of reps. Epinesa, 37 reps. You could tell he was rusty. TJ Sanders, 19. He played exclusively defensive end in this game, which is not great because, well, he's optimized to play on the inside. You know, you'd like to see him kind of do the Ed Oliver stuff, but because of, I think, kind of what you're trying to preserve on the edge, you had to play on the edge. It's not ideal. Javon Solomon, 18 snaps, and a lot of those are inside snaps. D-tackle Daquan Jones, 46 snaps. I really appreciate the way he's playing. I think he's maximizing what he has right now. Deon Walker, 35 snaps. Larry Ogunjobi, 23 snaps. I think this was his best game yet. Thought he's been kind of rough the first few games back from suspension. It feels like maybe he's finding it a little bit. And then Jordan Phillips, 13 snaps. At linebacker, Terrell Bernard, all 71 snaps. I give him a big hat tip. I'm gonna put him down as a stud. I realizing that I don't have him down as a stud. I need to put him down. I thought he was as good as you could hope. I mean, he's playing with a busted wheel for sure, but a couple tackles for loss, couple of big, plays in coverage. And I thought he competed with physicality that we haven't seen this year. And I could appreciate that out of him. So I'm impressed with Terrell Bernard this week. Matt Milano, 51 snaps. I actually thought he played pretty well in this game. He had a huge blunder on the Sean Tucker touchdown catch. He's in man coverage, and he's got to buzz down there and play in coverage, and he knows it's man coverage, and he looks back at the quarterback and like absolute goofy play. But other than that, I thought he was pretty sound. And then Dorian Williams, 28 snaps. We haven't really seen the Bills use a third linebacker. And the fact that they are with Dorian Williams, but also have a very creative role for him, it's exciting to see. I'm enjoying it in a lot of ways. At corner, Christian Benford, 71 snaps. I thought this was maybe his best game of the year. Good coverage, some physical tackles. I really enjoyed Christian Benford this game. Max Harrison, 37 snaps. I thought he was really sound. And they're not going after him. He's playing really well in coverage, and you could see they're playing a little bit more man with him as well. Trey White, 34 snaps. He's kind of stabilized, right? Like, do you remember early in the season, it's everybody's punching bag? That hasn't really been the case lately. I think Trey White's kind of settling in as well. Taron Johnson, 52 snaps. I don't know, guys. I don't know about Taron Johnson right now. I don't think he's right. I hope he's not right, because he's certainly not playing as well as we'd like. At safety, Cole Bishop, 68 snaps. He's a dog. Jordan Poyer, 58 snaps. Very impressive, all things considered. Cam Lewis, 18 snaps. Jordan Hancock, 16 snaps. My studs in this game, Josh Allen, 6 touchdowns. Spencer Brown, I thought this was a really high-level impact game for him. Tyrell Shavers, it's the whole thing, right? 4 for 90. He's blocking on, huge plays, contributing on special teams. Shout out to him. Ty Johnson, didn't play a ton of snaps, but I thought his impact was pretty obvious when he was on the field. Cole Bishop, definitely a stud, game-changing play on that interception. And, of course, the 2-point conversion as well. And then Terrell Bernard. I'm very impressed with Terrell Bernard in this game, all things considered. I don't have a dud. Maybe McCole Hardman. I give him some level of grace because it's his first game back, but that was an awful decision. But I didn't think anybody played to the level where it's like, oh, that's a dud. Maybe if the Bills lost the game, I'd toss McCole Hardman in there, but no duds this week. All right, Bills squad is not going to happen again until Thursday after Bills-Texans. Just weren't able to find a time to get that done before then. So our next Bills squad episode is after Bills-Texans concludes on Thursday night. But we got plenty of episodes of Locked On Bills coming your way. Of course, this is your All-22 review. We're going to get to work on the Bills-Texans primer. You're going to get crossover Thursday. You're going to get my traditional final thoughts and predictions podcast as well. So Tons of content coming your way. Don't miss it. And then, of course, after the game, post-game, all-22 review. You can get two all-22 reviews this week. Good time to make sure that you're in the subtext or the sub stack. So check out thejoemarino.com. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today. Thanks for being here. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills, and I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.